We're going to draw spheres again. So far you did one sphere, and then you showed overlapping to do two spheres. This time I'm going to use my paper horizontally, and I'm going to create many spheres going off into the distance. I'll begin by using a marker, only because this marker is easier for you to see. I would like you to use a pencil, but I'm going to draw with this blue marker as a sketch. That way you know to draw lightly. If you see my blue marker, you try and draw lightly. We're going to begin just like with the others, where I draw a loose circle about as big as my fist. But I'm going to go on the bottom half of my rectangle when I draw this first circle. So I'm just going to draw a circle about as big as my fist. A light, loose sketch. So we drew a line that made a shape. And the next circle or sphere that I'll create is going to be up a little bit and a little bit smaller. So that is size, it's going to get smaller, and that is placement, it's going higher. So my next circle is going to go like this, and I'm showing some overlapping. I might have done it too big already. And I'm going to do another one on the other side. Sometimes my students will say that looks like Mickey Mouse. But I'm going to do now a third row of spheres, at least one more sphere. And this one's going to be even smaller and even higher. If this was the first one and this is the second, my third sphere is going to be higher up. That's the placement. And I'm going to draw it even smaller, but it's still going to overlap. And I'll do one on the other side of my paper as well. Now in between these two spheres, there can be a small sphere, and I'll just do an easy curved line to show you one more there. And we could even put another indication of some smaller spheres back here by doing little bumps here. And does it look a little bit like a pool table to you, where the balls are going away from us in the distance? If you had room, you could do another tiny sphere back here. Or it could go off like that. Now that we have done a number of spheres, it's a good time to add value to our drawing. The first step with any value is to remember our light source, which shines down at an angle, not directly above, but somehow down below. That's going to tell us where our cast shadows fall. So I'm going to start again with my first circle. And I'm going darker now because I like the shape that I drew with my light line. And with this light source here, this is going to be the brightest spot on the ball. And that's going to mean the shadow is on the opposite side. If this is the bright spot, the shadow will be down here. And I'm going to use my pencil and make a very dark shadow on the bottom of my ball. It's actually the shadow that hits the table. Not the ball, but the table. And that's a start. You may decide how long your shadow will be. Now, I don't just get to put a shadow on the bottom of one sphere, but all of these spheres. So I'm going to curve this line and say the shadow is going to continue to be on the bottom and the left of the second sphere. So I'm going to draw it in, and then I'll color it in darker with my pencil. Pressing hard with a lot of pressure makes a really dark value. And so now I've got two cast shadows, and I can still go on and make this third sphere have a cast shadow as well. Again, it's going to be right against the bottom of the sphere, and it'll go off the edge of the paper because of where I put that. These spheres will also be casting shadows. So I will continue to put the shadow to the left and at the bottom of the sphere. But now I know my shadow is going to be hiding behind the sphere in the front. This is how we create the illusion of space, where this is near, and these are in the middle, and these are far in the background. So you just see a tiny little shadow on the ground there, and here again, just the tiniest little shadow. And I even have room for one little shadow there. Then comes shading the ball itself. And we're going to continue thinking our light is up and on the right. So in the top right of my sphere, it will be bright white, the white of the paper. But down on the lower left, curving around, there'll be dark shadows on all of these spheres. So I'll add some shading now. I might go and fast forward for this part. If you're watching closely, you'll see I'm using curved lines to shade my sphere. That gives an indication of its being three-dimensional. I'm creating the illusion of form. And so they become spherical as I shade in a direction. The next fun part to this process is dropping a shadow behind each ball that lands on the next ball. This is what we're calling a nook and cranny shadow. So the front ball casts a bit of a shadow on the ball behind it, and this ball is casting a shadow behind it. And that separates the front sphere from the one behind it. It's as simple as that. Here, this shading will be on the left side of this circle, but I want the front sphere to remain white there. So that creates contrast between the shading of the second sphere and the front sphere. So as you continue to create the illusion of three dimensions, it might help you to turn your paper as you shade to get your hand moving the right direction. That is just fine to turn your paper while you work. I do it all the time. And here I've got to cast a shadow on the back ball, behind this ball, creating a little contrast between ball number 3 and ball number 4. So this is my finished sketch. I have drawn a lot of spheres going off into the distance. It looks like this is close and this is far. I've used size and placement to show and the illusion of space. And I also used my pencil to create dark values and medium values and some very light values. If you want to use your finger and smear that pencil graphite a little, you can do that. But take your time and make this drawing a very careful sketch that shows size, placement, and value.